Whisper through the trees, cold winds carrying their pleas. Lives ended, stories untold, a heart of stone, a grip gone cold. They said it was him, they swore it was clear. Blonde hair like smoke, the devil near. They said it was him, they swore it was clear. Blonde hair like smoke, the devil near. A heart of stone, a grip gone cold. Whisper through the trees, cold winds carrying their pleas. Ended, stories untold. They said it was him, they swore it was clear. Blonde hair like smoke, the devil near. They said it was him, they swore it was clear. Blonde hair like smoke, the devil near.
Top of the morning to you. G'day. How you going? Hello. Good morning, Miss Tricia. Good morning, Miss Jenny J. In the house. How you doing? Oh, look at you. Look at you. 12 months. Where did that go? Oh, Lordy. Lordy. What can I say, girlfriend? We're in it together, huh? Oh, we missed you too. We missed you too. Anyway, good morning, and welcome to the Defence Rests, and welcome to our special edition. Basically, we've been working very, very hard. I apologise, we haven't streamed for a couple of weeks. There's been a few issues going on, but most of it was research and getting ready to plan this session and tomorrow's session, because they are huge, mega huge, okay? So you don't want to miss it. Put those notification bells set to all so you don't miss out, because tomorrow, wow, you're in for a treat. Not that tonight's not a treat. So this is a 10-part series of Martin Bryant and the Port Arthur Massacres. Now, Port Arthur Massacres happened nearly 30 years ago. It was the 28th of April, 1996. Shit, I haven't got that right. been studying all this time and haven't gotten the date right. And it is still Australia's biggest mass murder on record. 35 innocent lives were lost that day. And the man that was convicted and imprisoned on 35 individual consecutive life sentences is Martin Bryant. Yeah. I'll reserve my opinions for a little bit. There is a lot of conspiracy theories out there. There is a lot of speculation. There is a lot of misinformation, and a lot to do with the mainstream media narrative and what they want you to know. So what you believe you may know about this case may not be certain. So what I'd really like you to do to start off with is to just wipe the slate clean. Forget anything you know about Port Arthur Massacre, Martin Bryant, everything. Clean slate, focus on just what you are told or what you listen to and hear in these two episodes, because these are based on court transcripts, official records, not media interpretation. So you can decide for yourself where you stand on this case at the end. Now, I would actually like to play, I'm going to skip to sort of almost the end with an interview from a Victorian police officer called Andrew McGregor. Now, Andrew has been a pivotal part in the trying to get the truth of this story out there for 30 years. And he is an ex-police officer. He was called down to Port Arthur at the time to assist with the policing and everything else down there. And he himself noticed a few discrepancies, let's say. So he's actually just recently done an interview with Paul on the WASP files, who Paul has been researching this for 9 years. So shout out to Paul, kudos, because he's got some amazing information down there. So you can check him out. So we're going to just share his video interview with Andrew McGregor, only part of it. And then we're going to watch it again at the end of the 10 episodes. And I want you to give me where you stand. So what he says in this interview, I want you to look for them. I want you to look for those points as we go along. All right? So let's get into it, shall we? Oh, if you haven't been here before, you've been given fair warning. If you've been here before and you know what you're in for, so suffer in your jobs. Let's share it. Okay, so this is the gentleman in the black is Paul Motor. He is actually that's bad pause. Sorry, Paul. He is he wanted to make a movie of Martin Bryant and Port Arthur. And so when he started researching for that movie, he found all these problems and he didn't want to tell the wrong story, so he's still researching it. Okay. Let's do it, shall we?
Was conducted, and we know without legal guardian present or without Martin Bryant's lawyer, John Avery, present. A lot of people raised the notion right at the end of that interview. Martin Bryant says, "I hope you find the person responsible for all this," and then points to himself and mouths me. What's your understanding of what Martin admitted to in that interview?
Nothing.
You know,
It's mind games. It's a pantomime. The whole thing is a pantomime. Everything we think is true is not.
Go and check him out.
Welcome to the WASP Files. Some of this material may be distressing and viewer discretion is advised. I wanted to go back to the Broad Arrow Cafe. We mentioned before that it took something like 6 hours before the police were there, and by Wendy's own testimony and many others, that was a crime scene that was not secured, and she said that people were wandering in and out, people coming in to try and find their deceased loved ones, people souveniring bullet casings on the floor.
I doubt if many people would be souveniring bullet casings, because they'll walk in and they'll be totally shocked and horrified. But some were going in, they needed say the wife's handbag to get the keys for the car, or to get something else, and you can't touch that. And that brings me on to another thing.
It still is a crazy case,
two
Bob.
witnesses who stated that they recognised the bag that the gunman left behind, the Prince sports bag, and they looked into it, and they saw some clothing and some rope, but no knife. No knife.
This is interesting because Damien Bugg, who was the prosecutor, when he was reading out,
said that there was a knife in the bag and that it had David Martin's blood in it.
Yes.
So David
Martin is the husband of the two people that owned the Seascape Cafe where the siege was. And he, in his autopsy, because his remains were burnt in the fire, as well as his wife's and the hostage. And they basically said the autopsy stated that there was a knife wound as well as bullet wounds. So that's why the knife is important here.
Was the owner of Seascape Cottage, who was apparently shot and knifed, and that this combat knife was found supposedly in the shooter's bag with, I believe Damien Bugg had said, with blood consistent with that of David Martin, the owner of Seascape Cottage.
Isn't that nice of him to say only consistent? No DNA
only
proof
consistent.
whatsoever. If then you get on to the next one, if you go back to Sergeant McCarthy, where Martin Bryant's talking about he's got this big knife, when he gets in the helicopter, he doesn't need the firearms because he's got this big knife. But if Martin Bryant's got this big knife during the siege of Seascape Cottage, what's it doing in his Prince sports bag?
That's a good question.
Right? Damien Bugg is pulling one of his lovely little tricks.
There were some discrepancies with a lot of
Damien Bugg.
his what would you call it? His brief on the circumstances of the shooting, including some of the timing of the events of how long it took for the shooting to take place.
Well, they had to do that. They got it done because of the locked fire exit doors. What they were doing was reducing the time, ergo, so that less people had the opportunity to flee through that supposed locked fire exit door.
Yeah, I think he mentioned that the shooting inside the Broad Arrow Cafe took place in 90 seconds, but other witnesses were saying it was more like 2 minutes.
Sandra Vandermeer stated a minimum of 5 minutes.
Tell us about what Wendy Skua did immediately after becoming aware that there was a problem at Broad Arrow Cafe.
Well, as I said, Wendy was inside the information centre, eating some chips. They heard the noise, and it's going on for a while, so they wondered what it is. She gets up, goes outside to investigate, realises there's shootings going on, does a quick U-turn back into the information centre, grabs the telephone, starts and calls the emergency number, calls the police. Brett Smith, was he the sergeant?
I think it was Sergeant Brett Smith, yeah.
Yeah, well, she got hold of a young constable. And so she's trying to tell him that the shooting's going on, and he's not believing it too well. So she grabs the phone, and thing goes to the door, holds it outside the door, so he can hear the shooting sounds. And so when she finishes that, she comes back inside, and he says, "Thank you, ma'am. Wish you luck." And I think it was Brett Smith who said, just after that telephone call, so I think that the whole board went wild. So there'd be calls going left, right, and centre. So Wendy Skua, I don't know how long it took her for her friends to inform all the other sites within the Port Arthur site. But then they went out, and another employee, Ashley Law, said when they exited the information centre that the gunman had just come out and he fired a couple of shots over their heads, so they bolted and ran around the back of the toilets. So that's how she got out. Now, her call was made at 1:32. The first call that the police recognised came from Ian Kingston, the security man there. He was, he'd done a 4-minute mile. His telephone call was placed at 1:35. So the shooting started at 1:32, and again, Major Sandra van der Peer, who was hiding under a table in the gift shop, she said the shootings went on for at least 5 minutes.
Inside the Broad Arrow Cafe, and we know that Wendy, amongst others, had been rendering, under the most extreme circumstances, as much assistance as they could. And there was also some reports apparently about shotgun pellets or discharge of pellets. So what's your understanding about the notion of the ballistics in regards to...
Again, we refer back to the fire exit door. Certainly Daniel Monk decides to, we've got to eliminate the number of firearms used and how many shots were fired, so as to reduce the time span down to, 19 seconds or whatever?
90 seconds.
Right. So you have a look. Who's the gentleman?
Peter Croswell.
Peter Croswell states that, when the shooting started, he was with 2 lady visitors from the mainland, and he got them on the table. He said he was struck with shrapnel. But Peter Croswell states quite emphatically that he also had a pellet wound on the top of his skull. He was hit in the head with a pellet. And then there's a doctor who came out on the Monday morning and told the news thing that wherever we looked, we found pellets.
Was that Dr. Wilkinson?
I think it was Dr. Wilkinson.
Now, the reason they say this is because the narrative is that there were 3 weapons involved, or 3 weapons were found in Martin's car: the AR-15, a shotgun, and another semi-automatic. But in the autopsy results of the victims and some of the survivors, there were multiple witnesses and victims that had actual gunshot wounds, but the autopsy and medical examiners' reports didn't have anything that recorded a shotgun being used in this at all. Oh, thank you. I've been busy. Now, I know this is probably not making any sense to you right now, but just have it in the back of your mind. It will make sense, I promise. And Wendy Skur is an employee that she was basically first on scene. Like, she was medically trained. She actually did all of their first aid training to the staff. So she was sort of managing triage within the cafe at the time. And she is actually, we will be watching her video interview and statements, but she adamantly denies that it was Martin Bryant.
So Stephen Howard had quoted in his interview that when he was outside the Broad Arrow Cafe, he came across a gentleman who was seated on the ground, wounded.
That's Olsen.
And Olsen had clearly had the pellet damage. And Stephen used to own a shotgun, so he knew the difference between. He also used to own a .223 caliber rifle, so he knew the difference between a rifle and also shotgun injuries. And yet the ballistics report that was released by Gerard Dutton, who was the Tasmanian police ballistics expert who was brought in to conduct the ballistics examination of the Port Arthur massacre, there was no mention of a shotgun being discharged, even though the Daewoo semi-automatic shotgun was located in the boot of the abandoned Volvo when it was left at the toll booth.
Again, if you have a look at Gerard Dutton's police statement, I think it's 162 where it talks about Peter Croswell. The doctor says a pellet, and Dutton writes it down as shrapnel.
Yeah.
You've got the doctor's report there, and immediately underneath it, Dutton writes shrapnel. Dutton is so much of an expert, he cannot differentiate between a pellet and shrapnel.
So for anyone that may be a little uneducated, shotgun pellets are round lead balls. Shrapnel, which can, of course, be ejected once rifle rounds strike various things, can shred copper.
Mostly the copper full metal jacket type rounds of the copper, that becomes the shrapnel most of the time.
So you can have little bits of metal that, and there was reports that there was shrapnel damage that was caused by rounds, in some cases going through the bodies of some victims and into other victims, or shredding and creating shrapnel. But there was basically a lot of reports, including a statutory declaration, which I have from Gerard Dutton, the ballistics report, mentioning that there was shotgun pellet damage, and yet we have this discrepancy. So once again, there's a shotgun that was found in the boot of the Volvo, but it seems like we don't seem to have any shotgun that's being discharged.
And now you understand completely why the DPP, Damien Bug, got his 30% pay rise.
If anyone wants to read the transcripts, they have to make their own minds up, but there does seem to be, in essence, some omissions, some very, very vital omissions of information, or at least questions that remain unanswered. I don't know whether
there are many questions that remain unanswered
in the boot of the Volvo, whether there were any tests carried out on whether it had been fired. Another interesting one, which I haven't heard anything about, is whether, usually to determine whether somebody had fired a weapon, they use a paraffin test to determine whether they've got gunpowder residue
on their wrist or whatever.
But I certainly haven't seen anything that suggests that Martin Bryant had undertaken a paraffin test, whether back in 1996 they did that test.
They did have them. John Presser, who was a forensic officer in Spring Street with the Victoria Police, he was over in Tasmania at the time, and yes, he was talking about this paraffin test.
Yes, let's talk a little bit about the notion of considering that there's a possibility that the Port Arthur massacre was an orchestrated event by higher powers, if you like, shady elements of government and or police. What would be the notion of the historical situation whereby, a lot of people say gun control was the motive for the Port Arthur massacre? I always say that may have been a bonus, but I think power may influence control.
If you remember the John Howard at the time, once the Port Arthur massacre had been and gone, we had a massive gun amnesty here in Australia, and he was trying to push for united gun laws throughout Australia, federal gun laws, and Tasmania was dragging their heels and not particularly keen to do so. So, yeah, that's where one of that conspiracy theory comes in, where they suggest that it was motivated by wanting to get gun laws basically changed in Australia.
Tend to be the greed motivations.
Darrell Smeaton was the head of the Australasian Peace Ministers Council, very high up within the Australian Federal Attorney General's Department. He had held a meeting with the Australasian, which includes New Zealand, police ministers in November 1995.
The year before.
Where he handed out the new gun laws that they wished to be implemented. November 1995. Right? Now, when did Roland Brown make his first prediction of the gun massacre in Tasmania?
1995.
Right. When Darrell Smeaton issued out. Now, the Queensland Police Minister then issued out copies of the gun laws to various gun clubs and gun retailers and that, to get their opinion on it, of what they thought of these new regulations. And the Victoria Police I don't know his name. I think Cooper was the Queensland police minister. But the Victorian also was issued with a copy of these new gun laws, and he was to report back in May.
Oh, a month after.
The proposed
These were the proposed federal gun laws that were constitutionally illegal, that little Johnny Howard presented in May of 1996.
Wow.
Again, in January 1996, I found the letter going back to the United Nations in Geneva, stating that the required gun laws would be implemented in May.
This happens.
That's astounding. I mean,
Port Arthur was the 28th of April, 1996. Coincidence?
So the gun laws didn't come from America, didn't come from Australia. They came from the United Nations.
It's factually based, and anyone who wants to check should know that the United Nations have issued what they call Agenda 2030, which is in essence a blueprint for a new supposedly benevolent way of running the planet, and part of that is total civilian disarmament by 2030.
All right. Have you heard of Samantha Lee?
Yes, she's a Greens.
No, she's not. She was originally a United Nations. I can't remember. Just part. Then she became a spokesperson for the Coalition for Gun Control. And when we had the 2003 Monash University shooting by Zing. Shortly after that, she and the Associate Professor Brett Inder made a statement in regard to a shipment of Beretta handguns that was shortly to arrive in Australia. That simply tells you that if that's the case, with the shooting, Zane was captured alive. One of the students grabbed him from behind. The professor, what's his name? Southern Brown, Huckleberry Brown, grabbed him from front and got shot by Zane, wounded, but they were then held, and Professor Brad Inder came in, and Zane said to him twice, "It was all I could do. It was all I could do."
So this, as I understand it from memory, was an Asian student who had taken handguns into Monash University and opened fire.
No, a handgun.
A handgun.
But the handgun ended up being 4 or 5.
In what sense?
Well, you try shooting 2 handguns at the same time. Looks good on television. The other really interesting thing was that he shot his 2 best mates first. He shot and killed them first. And they were the only ones to die. And then you start going back and you have a look at Charles Whitman from the Texas University shooting. Was it 1966?
Yeah, Texas Tower sniper.
Yeah, and a couple of the others. Who's the ones that they shoot for? But, he's also telling us that Martin Bryant had a medical condition. He had Professor Chapman, Simon Chapman, from the Australian Institute of Criminology. He's on the Channel 9's Today Show at 7:30 a.m. What does he say about the shooter at Seascape Cottage? He says this man has a mental condition, but 87% of shooters don't. And he's quite wrong, because the figure 87% for the shooting from the statistics in firearm deaths relate to suicides.
So if you commit suicide, well, you've got some issues.
Scared the crap out of
me. He's
Sorry. Jan just popped in and the whoop in my ear made me jump. Good morning, madame.
I think it's good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Excellent. How are we?
Yes, not too bad.
Let me just zip across there. Ta-da. Okay. Did you get your computer worked out?
No, I'm on my phone. Had a bit of a late night.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Did you guys continue on?
Oh, yeah, I'll tell you about it later.
Okay. All right. We're just doing, what I've done is I've gone to the very last interview that was done only last week with Andrew McGregor that Paul Motor did on his WASP file thing. And
yep, seen that one.
And I'm playing it first. And I want everyone to to look for the points that he's making throughout this series and try and get context to it. and then we'll review it again, what their opinion is at the end.
Okay, cool.
Right, so that's what we're just watching now.
Hello, everybody. Eh?
Also telling us that Martin Bryant had a medical condition. He had schizophrenia.
Well,
Dr. Ian Sale brought in Asperger's, and Paul Mullen's ripping.
Anything that I've seen documented in that, but you know.
Paul Mullen's report specifically was commissioned so that he could provide his insights as to whether or not Martin Bryant, who was placed on a guardianship order in 1993 by the Hobart Supreme Court.
Okay, so that guardianship order that he was placed on by the Hobart Supreme Court was to do with his inheritance that he got from Helen Harvey. Now, Helen Harvey was the eccentric lady that he befriended while he was going around looking for work to do gardens and lawns and mowing and stuff. And he met her at her property, and they became friends, basically. And she was a bit of a hoarder, I think. She had like 40 cats and all sorts. And
I was going to say 900 cats.
Yeah. Apparently, the council actually. She had 40 in cat cages in her shed or something. And contrary to popular belief, the mainstream media basically put out that Martin in his childhood was known to be abusive and cruel to animals. That's a load of bullshit. Okay? It is the exact opposite. There is no evidence anywhere that says that happened. And even in his police interview, when they were asking him about where he used to go and practice in the bush shooting his AR-15, they asked him if he used bottles to shoot. And he said, no, that would harm the animals. So he would take his own cardboard targets so that it wasn't going to kill the animals. So there you go. No, he didn't hurt any of their cats at all. That's how they became friends for their love of animals, basically. So she was the heiress to the Tattersalls company. So Tattersalls is
Lotto.
Yeah, Tatslotto.
Lotto.
Yeah.
Everybody has Lotto, like bingo or whatever it is, don't they?
So she was the heiress to that fortune, and she left that all to Martin. So this Supreme Court, because his IQ was only 66, they rendered him unable to manage his own finances and appointed a guardian, which was the state trustees, to manage his affairs. Now, he could access that money, but he could only access a certain amount at a time and via them. Okay?
Mentally incapable of managing his affairs. Whether or not he was, in essence, culpable and sane enough to stand trial for Port Arthur.
No.
He's not.
No. The court has made a decision in 1992 under Gardner or whatever it was, the solicitor, right? The court has made that decision in 1992. Once those conditions are set, they're there until the court has sufficient evidence to override.
So the case law basically states that if your IQ is of that level, because that's the 1 to 2% of the population, Martin is actually deemed intellectually disabled. It is
in Australia, if you have an IQ of less than 170, less than 70, you are automatically entitled to the disability support pension in Australia,
which he was on.
Yes.
But that also gives you additional rights and responsibilities that they must ensure happens, which did not happen. So he was supposed to have had a guardian elected to him to be present at any time of investigations, interviews, coordinate, trying to explain what charges were, sentencing, all sorts of things. He was also had to have, as in the United States, an attorney present at all times. The attorney was called for the police interviews, and his response was just answer the questions and comply with the officers. He was not mounted to defence whatsoever, and we'll go into Avery later because I have some big news on him. Ooh.
Even the most dumbest Hell's Angel motorbike, he understands. No comment.
Martin didn't even know. Like when you watch the police interview with him, he had no idea what they were talking about. No idea.
No idea.
No idea. He had pleaded guilty. He had pleaded not guilty for 5.5 months. And in that 5.5 months, there was no defence prepared, no trial, nothing for the trial.
No motions, no nothing.
No, nothing. There is nothing on file. Nothing on file at all.
But we don't know that 100% because the government.
Well, yes, but most of
didn't they lock the documents up recently for 75 years?
They locked a lot of the investigation materials and forensic stuff away. But it is believed that the forensic stuff, the ballistics, there wouldn't be anything conclusive in that anyway, because the 2 guns that were actually found at Seascape they're alleging were used in this. Whoever used them actually had some sort of explosive thing that went into the barrel or the chamber of the gun. So once they had finished using the weapon, they inserted this into the gun and it blew the internal componentry apart. So it would never be able to be used to be ballistically tested. And the guns that they used to show you on the news was the gun, but they'd actually obtained different parts for it to put it back together to make it look like a complete unit. But they still wouldn't be able to use that for ballistics testing because it's the incorrect barrel. So nothing would be conclusive as far as that's concerned. And there was no actual DNA evidence apparently either. Nothing in the prints bag, nothing on the nothing. Just
That'd be pretty dangerous, putting something down the barrel of a gun to try and make it explode.
So that they did that when they left it there. Like that was it. They put that in and bug it off and left the gun there, so that no one could identify what was used. One was found on the roof at Seascape Cottages.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I
did a massive big report. Yes, it's in. I've got it. I've got the details for you. But I did a massive deep dive on Avery yesterday, and we've got some. I've actually got a whole heap of info. Anyway, we won't go there because it's too much to go into. But just hold on to your seats, folks, because this is going. Yeah.
The Hobart Supreme Court has never had a thing to override the findings of the court of 1992. Ergo, Martin Bryant is incapable of handling his own affairs, and also thus requires a guardian or a solicitor to look after his affairs at any police interview.
What I mentioned by that was because he is now deemed as being intellectually disabled, he has rights under the Disability Act of Australia as well. And so that adds to what infringements were not done, like his rights not being met additionally to the legal stuff, right? Which gives you a better case.
So the interview that was carried out.
So the interview carried out by Warren and Payne on Martin Bryant, I think was July, right?
I will be showing you that when we get to that episode.
Firstly, they failed to take into account the court proceedings. Secondly, what's the first thing Martin Bryant says to them? Does my solicitor know about this? I said, yes, Martin, he knows. Sorry, as soon as Martin Bryant says solicitor,
they should have stopped.
Interview stops. The solicitor is called in.
So that transcript of the interview, that was in essence one of the only interviews that I've seen in relation to Martin Bryant speaking to the authorities, was conducted without a legal guardian present and without his lawyer present. And I guess we should talk a little bit about that interview itself, because there were some problems with it.
How about the redactions from that interview? How many pages were removed?
65 pages were removed when it was read out in the sentencing hearing.
Now tell me, what actual evidence did Martin Bryant's solicitor, John Avery, present to maintain the innocence of Martin Bryant?
Exactly.
None that I can really see.
Yep.
No. He read out Professor Paul Mullen's report on Martin Bryant.
So this was the psychological report where Mullen had reached the understanding, or his opinion, that Martin was mentally fit to stand trial for the crimes. And
but that's irrelevant if the court order says he requires one.
So we're going back to the notion of whether or not the reports that were submitted by the psychiatrists were, I guess, had validity to be able to then determine that Martin could stand trial and could render.
Very good question, Jen. Very good question. Martin has been behind bars for 30 years. 30 years. April next year will be 30 years from Port Arthur massacre. And
no contact with anybody.
The first 3 years he was imprisoned, he was refused any visitors. His mother, I've got letters showing between his mother and the Royston prison where he is staying, saying that Martin does not want to see her, and that they have kept all of her mail aside for him for when he decides that he wants to read them. Now, Martin was illiterate. And basically, it took her 3 years to get them to agree to let her see him. She is the only one that's seen him in that 30 years. There have been multiple media requests to interview him in that 30 years, all denied. So he's spoken to nobody. He has no phone privileges. And yeah, this is why we need to get this information out, because it was convenient for the Tasmanian police and federal government to pin it on Martin because he doesn't know how to argue his way out. And it quelled the community's need for a conviction to feel safe. 5.5 months between Port Arthur and his coerced guilty plea, basically. Yeah, there's massive issues, and I'll list all of the legal ones. You can decide for yourself the moral ones, but yeah, there's too much here to not have reasonable doubt, basically. He wasn't afforded a trial at all. Not at all. They had no intention of him going to trial. No, you haven't heard the half of it yet. Yes, he was. Yes, he was arrested straight away because it was at the end of an 18-hour siege at the Seascape cottages, but we'll get to that. Old horses.
A plea of guilty or not guilty in the first instance.
Right. 2 points again. What did John Avery state in his presentation to the Tasmania University Law Institute in about 1997-98?
He had a duty to protect the community.
I had to do right by the community.
Mm-hmm.
Stop, Martin Bryant. He doesn't deserve it.
Not a right to do right by your client. He put the community first. He did not represent his client. Adequate service of counsel.
I have to look after the community. Since whenever does any solicitor have to consider society before
that's the prosecutor's job.
Before his
client.
Thank you.
With regards to the interview that was conducted, so what's your understanding of some of the technical problems that they experienced?
Going into Martin's rights that were violated.
Perhaps something they just didn't want in there. A friend of mine, a Sydney barrister, Terry Schultz, stated that he watched the full interview when it was on news, and he said the background changed 3 times.
Okay, let's go back to Karen Reid. Okay, Karen Reid's Sally Port video, the most disgusting, grainy film footage you've ever seen, right? Now, this is Australia's biggest mass murderer. Biggest. And they used the shittiest video recorder to record it, really. The background changed 3 times. Bit of tampering there, you think? Perhaps.
Wasn't all done at the same time, I don't think.
No. And they redacted so much of it. So much of it. to suit themselves. It is, yes. So basically, we're looking for some legal representatives, some Aussie legal reps to take note of this case and hopefully get it reopened and appeal. I don't know if any appeal documents were even filed. I probably doubt it, given Avery's behaviour, but there has to be some legal reprise for Martin, because this isn't justice.
During the interview with Martin, that they were having technical difficulties with the recording. There's also quite a lot of responses, particularly from Martin Bryant, that in the transcript are listed as illegible.
Especially with the plea negotiations. Oh, we don't want him saying that, you know. Oh, we can't have him saying that, no. Inaudible. Yes. The other thing you've really got to look at too is that who was the, not a psychiatrist, who's the person who rated Martin Bryant's IQ?
Ian Sale.
What was his name?
Joblin.
Okay.
Oh, Ian Joblin.
Right. Now, what was Ian Joblin's full-time job?
As far as I know, a psychiatrist.
Prison warden.
Oh!
His full-time job was a prison. He did it part-time. And his office was opposite Paul Mullen's.
Did you hear that?
So he's a part-time psychiatrist, part-time prison warder. That's an interesting job.
He was. I don't even think he was a psychiatrist. His office was opposite Paul Mullins, who's the biggest scumbag you've ever met. But anyway, it was Paul Mullins whose psych assessment of Martin was basically the only evidence used to convict him based on his opinion, and it was just a load of bullshit. Anyway, but yeah, shit. Okay. Ooh.
A registered psychiatrist? Or
I think so. I think he would have been registered.
because so Ian Joblin did present.
There's still a paper trail,
What
Jen.
did Ian Joblin say a couple of years
Still
later?
a paper trail, and yeah.
I think you'll just have to tell me rather than asking me questions because we're interviewing yourself.
Right.
So let's go back a little bit.
No. This is quite easy. Ian Joblin simply said, look, I really would like to have another look at Martin because I think I've got a few facts wrong. Simple as that.
Just to go back again on the police interview that was conducted, and we know without legal guardian present or without Martin Bryant's lawyer, John
Maybe
Avery,
that's why it didn't come up in the site
and
search
it had a lot
because
of
he's not a
problems.
registered
But
site.
No, it said he
when
is.
you
They
consider
said
the content of that interview, and you can get the full transcript, there are some video segments of that available, but not all of them. But the full transcript is available. What's your understanding of what Martin admitted to in that interview?
Nothing. I couldn't see. He doesn't know. He doesn't know about the Broad Arrow Cafe. He's talking about going down to Roaring Beach for a swim, and I think the police, and not only that, but I think the police said there was a couple of people there that he would have seen. So they've asked people if Martin Bryant's been seen at Roaring Beach. I think that's interesting. Then you go in and look at the Fortescue Bay Road, and none of that makes sense until you go back to Terry McCarthy and the police negotiators tapes, where Martin Bryant talks about kidnapping this bloke and with the woman and the child in Fortescue Bay Road.
So just to clarify, did Martin at any point state that he'd been down to Port Arthur on the day?
No. I'm pretty certain he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I've read the transcript, and I guess I'm asking the question, but on multiple occasions, he clearly states that he never went down to Port Arthur, and that the only thing what we're referring to with the Fortescue Bay turnoff, the transcript mentions a confused recollection of him kidnapping somebody, a male, at gunpoint and forcing them into the boot of the BMW, and that person was, there was a woman there with a young child who'd also wanted to take part in the kidnapping, and he said, well, I've got this bloke here, so hop in. So he has a confused recollection of this kidnapping that took place at the Fortescue Bay Road turnoff. And you're saying there is that comment that he made to police negotiator Terry McCarthy?
Yes, and my belief is the police, being very naughty people, have played that to him beforehand, and saying, look, there you are, Mike, that's you, that's your voice, this is what you're telling us. And so when they do the police interview, Martin Bryant reiterates what he has heard from the police negotiators' tape. Because I've said it must be true. You understand?
He's not smart enough to know otherwise.
So when people sort of say, we have this interview with the police, and that there is a confession, in essence, to the crimes from Martin Bryant. There seems to be some issues with the interview. There is some stopping and starting technically, and once again, him mentioning that he was on multiple occasions was never at Port Arthur. So in essence, through the entire interview, and if anyone wants to download that, that will be available on the files, on the WASP files with the documents that are available. He's never actually admitted to killing anyone. Though there is a lot of people raised the notion right at the end of that interview. Martin Bryant says, "I hope you find the person responsible for all this," and then points to himself and mouths me. And
no. That includes me.
I'm pretty sure he just says me.
Right, try again. That includes me. Think about it. I hope that people try to find out the person who actually did it. Me. No, that should be, and that includes me.
Yeah, it's I often say, as damning as that seems, it's still not a confession to murder.
It's not.
Particularly if we consider the notion that Martin thought that he was playing the role of a counter-terrorism Jamie at Seascape, and that he was, the centre of attention, the focus, the person responsible. It doesn't qualify, in my opinion, as a strong enough indicator of a confession to murder. And yet a lot of people pointed out it does seem quite damning. And one of the officers says, "Oh, I don't find that very funny, Martin." And he says, "Oh, well, you should have recorded this." And they say, "Well, it was recorded." So on the surface level, it appears like he's taking responsibility for it. But I guess it still remains to be seen whether it qualifies as proof beyond reasonable doubt.
Yes. I don't think it's reasonable.
So it's not beyond reasonable doubt.
Unreasonable.
Yeah.
And I'm quite certain when Martin Bryant said me, he would have said, "That includes me." Because he would also like to find the people doing these murders.
There's a section in the interview where I believe it's Inspector Payne says, "I've just told you what you've done." Martin replies, "What have I done?" He said, "You just killed 35 people." And Martin turns his head away and says something that sounds very similar, like, "Oh, it's bullshit." So it just seems quite interesting to me that someone who had carried out a massacre of that horrific proportion would have a very clear idea of what they'd done when shown images of some of the victims and told that he had killed 35 people. His reaction seems to be quite astonished.
He actually asked at the very start of that interview, because I was starting to talk about this, the mass murder, and he was asking, "Oh, how many people were killed?" Like, he had no idea. No idea.
So it sort of flies a little bit in the face. He's certainly acting throughout that interview very frivolously, laughing and treating it like it's a big joke.
It is a big joke.
Yeah. He thought it was a
he
big
doesn't
joke.
realise there's a significance to what they're pinning on him.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very unusual interview and certainly one that is worth investigating.
You will be
I want to
seeing
sort of
that,
jump ahead a little bit
we get
and
there.
talk about the fact that you began the long journey, as I have, into really digging deep into Port Arthur. And how did you find people were responding to you, whether it be former members of the police force or just generally? How did you find the reactions to when you first started voicing your concerns about the tragedy?
I really had virtually nothing to do with any of my former associates in the police force, which is why I'm living in Geelong, because I never worked here. So I didn't approach any of them. There's a few people in the police force I know that were extremely interested in my CD when I put it out, and some of the other things I'd come up with later on, because all it simply is just going through the paperwork and putting different things together, timelines and other little things like that. It's not difficult work. It's proper police work. And
we haven't even started yet, Jim.
So, look, as an example, if you have a look at Gary Whittles and
that right there is the perfect example. You know what mainstream media want you to know about this case. They didn't plan on anyone digging any deeper. So
no, and they didn't show all
that's
that
our
interview
job.
with him on TV. They only showed like bits of it, like where he was pretending to hold a gun and stuff like that on TV at the time.
Yep. It even came down to, there was 200 witnesses at the Broad Arrow Cafe. And if Martin was the shooter, how many people do you think would have identified him out of the 200? Two. There was actually more people that absolutely adamant that he didn't. It wasn't him. Than there was that said it was him. And we have their video recordings and statements.
Paul Highlands and
one of them was actually a victim.
Andrew Mark Fogarty's statement. There's virtually very little time things in there. And the time essence is vital for any police evidence. You understand? So
what Andrew McGregor was insinuating with the times, you know how they were saying that it was like 90 seconds and all those people were killed. It was 22 people killed in 19 seconds. Apparently, they needed to reduce the time span to try and cover their asses by saying that there wasn't enough time for people to have even gotten to that fire escape door. So the fact that it was locked isn't an issue.
And I think the other timing with the number of bullets and the number of people killed too was they wanted to make sure that everybody understood these were semi-automatic rifles in Australia, because that's what they're out to ban, is semi-automatic weapons.
Yes, correct. Yep. The Andrew said at the start of this interview that the gun laws that they were going to implement came out in the November of 1995, and the report stated that the gun laws would be implemented in May 1996. Port Arthur happened April 28, 1996.
And the other issue we had, those gun laws, they tried to get an agreement between the states when Barry Unsworth was Premier in 1987.
Yep.
And Tasmania was the only state that would not agree to the gun laws that the 7 states, or 5 states and 2 territories, wanted to implement. And Barry Unsworth made a flippant comment, because we just had some big shootings in Melbourne. We'd had Hoddle Street, we had Queen Street, we'd had one in Queensland, and no, that was before the Link Cafe. So we just had 3, I believe, within a period of 12 months when this 1987 legislation was supposed to go through Parliament. Tasmania, this is the only one that rejected it. And Barry Unsworth flippantly said, well, there'll have to be a massacre in Tasmania before we see these gun laws get through.
Yep. That was referenced 3 times. So 3 separate people apparently made that comment between 87 and 1996.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. There's far too many coincidences and shit that you just cannot write off. You can't. It's like, yeah, no worries. Yeah, he backed into his arm, broke a tail light, and never broke a bone. It's not happening.
Yeah, it's not happening, all right.
No.
When you suddenly see that the timelines aren't there, you have to ask why.
And this is a police officer.
Extremely interesting statement.
What's he got to gain?
That gives a precise time, and that's from Mary Craig, who was the girlfriend of Constable Paul Highland, and she states that she received a telephone call from Seascape at 3:08 p.m. Why did she do that? Because she received a telephone call from Seascape at 3:08 p.m. Why?
Now, can you elaborate? What was this call? What was she doing at the police station?
Well, she's the partner or whatever of Constable Paul Highland. So while Paul Highland is outside saving the world, she's stuck inside, and the telephone rings at 3:08.
So she's like a receptionist at the police station?
Yes. Just like you go for any one-man police station, he's always got a wife there, and she's always she used to look after the police station while he's out doing the rounds or doing this or doing that. So she's there to answer the calls and take messages and things like that. So why? And I'm just going to put that one to you, because once you go ahead and do a timeline on Gary Whittle's statement, so he's got to drive from the Navinas police station down to the toll gate at the toll booth at the Port Arthur site, see the sites there, collect names, addresses, get a bit of a rough statement. He then drives down and sees, what's his name, Laycock, Jim Laycock. She's there. So he's talking that's what, 5-10 minutes? Then he goes down across the road where we've got the Toyota with Zoe Hall, who's been shot dead in that. and he's got to talk to a few people. Then he drives up, further up, and he's being flagged and slowed down by vehicles coming the other way, saying there's a heap of people have been shot at the Box and Hounds Hotel. And so he goes in there and he starts interviewing people who have been shot, again, collecting names and whatever. All takes time. And then he leaves that and he drives ahead. All of a sudden, in front of him is Constable Paul Highland. And then they go on to Seascape Cottage.
And with the call that was made to Merrin Craig, the content of that call was quite distressing.
No, it wasn't. It was made up. It's a lie.
I'll elaborate what has been claimed, but then I'd be very interested to see your reaction to that. So she claims that, as you say, 3:08 p.m, somebody rang the police station and was taunting her and saying, "Do you know where your husband is, Paul Highland? I know where he is. And I'm having a lot of fun here," and so on, and sort of taunting her, and she was quite upset by that. And then he said something pretty distressing like, "Playing with yourself, are you?" and then hung up the phone. So there was a malicious call, in essence, reported that had been made to Merrin Craig by somebody, apparently at Seascape Cottage, supposedly Martin or Jamie. But I guess, tell me why you think that's a lie.
Of all the information you have on Martin Bryant, the police negotiated tapes, the police interview, when was ever Martin Bryant, when was he ever displayed that type of personality to the call of Merrin Craig?
No, absolutely not. He never has ever been aggressive.
He's a nasty, sadistic, sexualistic animal. And Martin Bryant is none of those.
Well, that's true.
So that call wasn't made by Martin Bryant. So what was the call made to Merrin Craig from Seascape Cottage at 3:08? There was a call made. What was it? We don't know, do we? But it definitely wasn't what Merrin Craig said. My guess would be somebody rang her up and said, "Here, have Paul come and pick me up." So you go, as I said, you go and have a look at the timelines of Constable Gary Whittle, and they'll all be correct. You then have a look at the timelines of Paul Highland, and they're wrong.
Ooh,
and then,
okay.
Who does Paul Highland spend the entire siege at after he leaves Gary Whittle at the front door of Seascape?
That's easy.
Sergeant Fogarty.
Sergeant Andrew Fogarty.
Sergeant Andrew Mark Fogarty.
Now, was he Tasmanian Special Operations Group?
Yes, and he was also a sergeant at the Bellary Police Station. So, my belief is that Sergeant Fogarty was at Seascape well and truly before his statement tells us that. And that, the call from Merrin Craig is the sole key as to what is actually happening there. Because that call would be registered at Telecom, that call went out from Seascape to Nobina Police Station at that time. And where was Paul Highland at that time? Because they didn't get to Seascape Cottage until about 3:30.
What about Pat Allen? So Constable Pat Allen, who was traffic police, I believe.
He was traffic police with, was it Perry Caulfield? He dropped Perry Caulfield, He's a young gung-ho policeman.
So he arrived at some point at the entrance to Seascape Cottage and apparently was fired upon, and then had to take cover in a ditch with
Whittle. Yes. So he drives from Hobart with
about an hour and 10-minute drive.
Rita's
sweetheart.
Highland and Fogarty, where they're overlooking Seascape, and they're told something there's wounded down at the Box and Hounds Hotel. So Pat Allen then drops Perry Caulfield off there to look after them, and then drives back up Gary Whittle.
And then he's fired upon, and the reports I have seen is that he took cover
in the ditch on the other side of the road, yeah.
And then the bullets were striking the front bumper of his car, and so he then was pinned down in the ditch with Gary Whittle for a while.
Each thing of being pinned down and fired on, that's again extremely specific. Pat Allen tells us at one stage he's requested by somebody that the gunman is on the roof, and if they could take a view, so possible for them to take the gunman out.
Listen to this.
So he then crawls out of the ditch and using the police car as cover, and lo and behold, somebody from Seascape takes a pot shot, the bullet bounces off the road and into the front bumper bar of Gary Whittle's police car.
So he immediately realises.
Not only can the gunman see him, but how did the gunman know that exact time that he would be doing that?
Yeah.
That's a very good question, given that he would have been given the directive to engage the shooter at Seascape. And there were police all over the area.
Were there police all over the area?
I guess it was the early stages of the siege. So it's
So who gave the instruction that, the shooter is on the roof of the building? Can you see him? And then you consider the message that the SOGs heard. We had the Port Arthur government permission to shoot. Permission denied. We had the Port Arthur government inside. Permission to shoot. Permission denied. This must happen. And that comes from the SES who were manning the barricades around Seascape, who were also listening into the police radio.
I did also hear that there were 2 Australian federal police officers that once they heard that response over the radio had resigned in disgust when they heard the call, permission is denied.
Stuart Beattie told us that story. He got it from a mate in the Australian Federal Police. Yes.
So there's I guess we're dancing around a lot of the questions, and these are questions that we would have hoped had been answered, but without.
Look,
the other thing is this happened at 3:08 at Seascape, so the police were all held up they were having their barbecue at Tirana. Police didn't enter the Port Arthur historic site, until like 7:30 that night. But there happened to be special ops doing training on the beach that day, so they all tended Seascape cottages. Sam,
who asked Gary Whittle to get up and have a look? There's only 2 possibilities, because they have to be the person in charge. So it's either Sergeant Andrew Mark Fogarty, or it's the policeman inside Seascape Cottage setting Gary Whittle, like setting Pat Allen up, to make sure that he stays undercover. There's only 2 possibilities. Which one do you want?
Well, it's it's certainly
it's mind games, or as my friend Stan says, it's a pantomime. The whole thing is a pantomime. Everything we think is true is not.
So tell me, what was the second yellow Volvo?
That was driven by Gene Andrews and Lynn Beavis, and Paul Cooper tells us that.
So there were reports that there was a second yellow Volvo at Port Arthur, and that it was at the site, and my understanding was people had known that the shooter had driven a yellow Volvo, and they'd spoken to the 2 women and said, be careful driving that car, because it might be mistaken.
That's Paul Cooper's statement. Then you have a look at Connie, whatever his name. He's a mate of Stephen Howard. In fact, he said when he was driving past Seascape at about 10:30 in the morning, he saw the yellow Volvo at Seascape. The trouble is, Martin Bryant's still at the service station drinking his coffee.
So I just want to clarify that, because what we're talking about now is that, in essence, and it could be considered not just a coincidence because there's more than one type of car, but there were 2 yellow Volvos.
And both had a surfboard on top.
Is that being definitely verified?
That's what the significance of that is, like, according to Wendy Skerr, there must have been some kind of regular thing that Martin and the police did with surfing. It was almost like they would take him down to the beach like on a weekly basis, because Wendy said it was, it was a normal thing for them to be involved with him, so they knew him. And he also frequented the Broadwater Cafe, Broad Arrow Cafe with Helen for morning teas and stuff. So they knew who Martin was. And that's why the surfboard was on the car. Even though there is no surf beaches, so to speak, there is beach there.
Yeah, that Roaring Beach is where they reckon he went regularly.
Yes, yep. And it was the police that actually, they must have had some program or something for him, be it, a carer type thing. Who knows? But it was a regular occurrence that the police did with him. And he loved it. Thought he was king shit. King dingaling.
And how hard would it be to get another yellow Volvo
Yeah.
with the surfboard on top.
Well, there's a witness, I think, Stevens. I'll have to get to it because the names are all intermingling now. But he lost his wife. She was behind the register with the young girl.
Oh, yeah.
That was killed at the cafe.
Yeah.
He was at the toll booth. He was working there too. And his interview, he states that he saw the Volvo and the BMW parked up at the toll booth, and there were 4 people in the yellow Volvo, and the driver was the shooter, and the shooter got out and ended up having an argument with the other 3 people in the car who got out, and he ended up shooting them, and that their names are in the thing. But yeah, that was at the toll booth. But the BMW was parked in front of the yellow Volvo up there, apparently. Just a witness of an employee.
None of this
ever got told because there was no trial.
And he says that the surfboard was in a surfboard bag of a certain colour. And when you have a look at the Volvo outside the toll booth,
do you remember what was like the bee's knees car for 1996?
Not a friggin' Volvo.
Because I'm just thinking, he's just been inherited over $500,000. Why would he be driving a Chevy?
I mean, a Volvo's an expensive. In Australia, they are expensive. But, you know, when you've frequented motorbikes most of your life, these Volvo things have this problem with their steering. As soon as they see a motorbike, they crash into them because they're fucking idiot drivers.
That's true. Volvo doesn't have a good reputation in
So
Australia.
that's why, you know, we don't like Volvo as much in Australia.
Helen Harvey apparently used to change her vehicle every week because she could. Why would Martin be driving around?
She didn't have that much money.
Apparently.
She only left him $500,000.
That's what we're told.
Yeah.
Apparently. Well. Allegedly, there was 27 million.
All right.
It's Tattersalls.
Yeah, I know, but she was a bit strange too.
She was, yes, eccentric, absolutely. But the family tried to fight Martin on the inheritance. And, yeah, it's been alleged that it's way more than that. Because, he would have had to have got royalties as well. They only mentioned her cash and the property that he was given.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's always more. Always
more. But then we should be able to get a copy of probate.
Yeah, yeah. And by we mean...
Okay, is that my job?
Cool, that'd be awesome.
I love how I get
funny. Me funny. Felt like I'm sitting around twiddling my thumbs.
What? Okay. What's the name again?
Helen Harvey.
Helen Harvey.
I actually have tried to look it up, but I didn't find anything. But I only did a really basic search.
Okay.
And moved on. Went down another rabbit hole. All right.
You see on the top, you see a yellow surfboard, no bag.
Lupo Prince had made a report to the Mercury newspaper that the initial target for the shooter
clean up the mess. So,
this is important.
geez, who in about
under the counter deals for money because he had plenty of money. But Dorothy at great length.
Well, when I was listening to that tape from Mike Monroe, I couldn't understand the term their main man. So I rang up Terry and I said, "What's he saying?" He said, "Oh, it's their main man." So I went back and listened to it. He was right. And he would talk with you and help you with anything. He was a lovely man.
You spoke to Terry Hills.
On the phone, yes.
He was the owner of Guns and Ammo and the man that was accused of selling the AR-15 to Martin Bryant.
The AR-15 came from a farm in Melbourne when they had requested that semi-automatics be handed in. And it was handed in and it was supposed to have been destroyed. But one of the special ops officers decided that he wanted to keep it for himself. So he held on to it and then sold it to a collector in Tasmania. That's how it got to Bryant.
But he denied that vehemently.
And it wasn't on his books. And he kept a very solid record on his books, as most gun dealers do.
I've spoken at great length to Matthew Hill, his son, and he very much confirmed the same thing. He said, my dad didn't need to do under-the-counter deals for money because he had plenty of money. And he said you couldn't buy a box of ammunition without needing to show it.
So they're saying that he didn't buy it from him. Interesting.
License to Terry Hills. So, and speaking with Dorothy as well, his wife,
Martin didn't have a gun license.
She, in essence, told me the story of how they were raided by the police and, coerced very, very forcefully into admitting that they'd sold the AR-15 that was used in the Port Arthur massacre. But Terry denied that up until his death, and they had their licenses, their dealer's licenses.
Well, he could not have sold the AR-15 to Martin Bryant. The AR-15 came from the Victoria Police, SOG, who in about 92, after confiscating, I think 17 AR-15s in Victoria, they were replaced by new firearms. So they had the AR-15s and the Ruger Mini 14s, and they sold them to a Bendigo gun dealer by the name of Garnet Featherstone. Garnet Featherstone then sold the Mini 14s to the Queensland Prison Service. He then made the mistake of trying to sell 3 AR-15s to Victorian gun collectors, who, when they went to take their firearms to be registered, the Victoria Police Gun Register found that these same firearms had previously been registered with them and had been classified as being destroyed at the Sims Metal Furnace in outskirts of Melbourne. Right? And at this particular stage, Inspector Warren came over to visit, and he was meeting with Assistant Commissioner Sinclair, Graham Sinclair, in relation to these firearms and how to clean up the mess. So, where did Garnet Featherstone supply to the Tasmanian police the firearms, that the AR-15s especially, that were used at Port Arthur? Because that's where they came from. And the reason I can't prove it is because the Victoria Police also confiscated Garnet Featherstone's gun register, because that also would have been extremely accurate.
And Terry Hills as well. So both the gun registers we know have been seized by police, never seen the light of day, never seen court, and they would, you would imagine, document what firearms went in, what firearms went out, who bought them. Terry Hills had stated quite comprehensively that a blonde-haired male had come in with one of the new plastic licenses that was endorsed for both semi and fully automatic weapons under the name Martin Bryant.
Yes.
But even then, he said the only thing that person had purchased was some shotgun ammunition and I believe a gun belt. But he'd also documented this, the
AR-10.
Yeah, the AR-10, which was handed over the counter by someone.
No, it was by the same gentleman. And when Terry Hill picked up the AR-10, he wanted to, what do you call it?
Rack the bolt.
Yeah. And a round pops out.
So it was brought in locked.
Wow.
And Terry Hill says, "Oh dear," which is spelled SHIT.
Yeah.
And he put the phone down and says, "All right, I'll fix it." And he wouldn't give it back to Martin Bryant. He didn't think Martin Bryant was safe with it.
Yes, it was apparently brought in a towel, and the notion that it was brought in like, oh, there's something wrong with his firearm, and the notion was that he was using ammunition that might have caused it to jam. But the fact that he brought in a fully locked and loaded semi-automatic high-powered rifle, and it was confiscated by Terry Hills, put into his registry, and so that was kept there, and once again they were raided and their licenses taken. So we don't know what happened to the registers. We don't know what happened with the AR-10 that was handed into him. So yeah, there's that question of the guns, and you mentioned that the AR-15 had come from Victoria. So there was
there'll be at least 3.
Yeah, there was more than one.
You see, you've got Martin Bryant's firearm, right? You then have the AR-15 that's found by Jared Dutton at Seascape, under the ashes. For a building that was burnt down 5 hours ago. And the firearm, most of it, a lot of it plastic, is still in proper working condition, except it's had a load put up it.
See?
And so that's the second one. And then you've got the third one, sort of thing that, who's the witness? Doesn't matter. There's another witness who's never near the Seascape, near the Broad Arrow Cafe, who stated that the government was going around shooting everybody from the head. Mm-hmm. But how did he know that? Because he wasn't inside the cafe to see it. So there's so much you could really pull apart.
Yeah, look, I've covered a lot of these in episodes of the Lost Files. We've taken various aspects, the guns, who owned them, where they came from, the discrepancies between the shooter being...
what about the FNFAL?
Well, that was apparently discovered on the roof of the Seascape College after the siege, and it had been damaged. It was missing a carrier spring, which is a vital component of that rifle in order to be able to fire it as a semi-automatic rifle.
They never found the carrier spring, by the way.
No, they didn't. And the barrel was bent. And I've had someone tell me that barrels on FNFALs are very, very tough barrels, and it would take a lot of force to bend a barrel. And as a result, those guns
so they
were
damaged
able
it beyond
to
repair.
have ballistic tests on the chambers. Same with the AR-15, as you mentioned. It was found with an exploded round that had gone off so catastrophically it had melted the rear of the casing into the bolt face and blown out the gases of the magazine tube. So there'd been a catastrophic failure, and anyone firing a gun with that kind of failure would have clear damage to their fingers
and
their eyes and face, because when those guns...
if they got like that, they used to do that in the Vietnam War.
With hot shots.
Yes, and the idea was that if they found a ammunition case or whatever, they'd grab the magazine and they put a hot shot in about number 3.
So it was C4 or something like that.
No, but they put this hot bullet into the magazine, but about 2 or 3, so the shooter would fire up 1 or 2 things, and then it would kill the shooter.
Yep.
That's what it was designed for.
They also did that apparently with, if
is it Martin would be capable of doing that?
Howitzers and very high powered stuff, so anyone using it would blow themselves to pieces. It's a military tactic.
It's been used a long time.
Talking about military tactics, we know that there were aspects of the shooter down at Port Arthur that seemed to suggest a very highly trained individual. Everyone said the person was calm, methodical, wasn't spraying and praying, and as we said, was noted to be dancing, pirouetting, spinning, and yet when people looked at Martin Bryant's so-called proficiencies with firearms, we talked about...
How many shots did he fire?
In the cafe itself?
No, Martin Bryant, prior to the Port Arthur massacre, how many shots from the three different firearms he owned had he actually fired?
I saw a figure of 64, I believe.
Right, he hadn't fired the Daewoo shotgun, that frightened him.
Supposedly, yep.
No, that's what he says. We can take that as being fairly correct. How many rounds had he fired from the AR-15? Because he fired that handed, and they would go into his chest and burn him. How many?
I told you!
At the most.
It was 29, because firstly, the shooter was firing from their right hand, whereas
No.
the was left-handed.
No, prior to the Port Arthur massacre.
Oh, you're talking about his target shooting?
Yes, and all that. About 17.
Yeah.
How many had he fired with the AR-10?
Unknown.
Again, not too many, we don't know. So, as a shooter, as a proficient shooter, he's not even a proficient shooter. He can't properly handle the firearm.
Yeah, to bring it in fully locked and loaded, suggests that someone didn't have a great understanding of how to clear a blocked breach. But also, the fact that Martin was left-handed as a shooter and demonstrated that in the video with Inspectors Warren and Payne, but everyone said the shooter shot from their right and shot from the hip.
No, not from the hip. Mick Sargent says he actually lifted up to his elbow and aimed shot at him.
He did fire from the shoulder, but he did a lot of shooting in the cafe from the hip.
Yes, and do you know why?
Because
all the bodies he was shooting, or most of them, were lying on the ground. He just had to walk up and just go bang. And they'd be headshots.
Yeah, I do agree with that if someone's seated in a chair and you're firing from the hip, you're pretty much at head height.
Yeah.
The indications were that the shooting wasn't spray and pray. It was
very precise.
Virtually, close range to point blank in the cafe, which is why most of the victims were taken there.
Oh, again, Robert, I got it mixed up.
Peter Croswell.
We've got the doctor's report with the pellet. But Rob Elliott, who was shot in the arm, he was the one who had the pellet damage to the head. The doctor pulled the pellet out of his head.
Means there must have been a shotgun fired.
No, it means that he was shot with a shotgun. Now, how does Rob Elliott describe the gun with which he was shot? Big, black, and ugly. Now, what's an AR-15? It's not big, black, and ugly. What's a Daewoo shotgun?
Big, black, and ugly.
Right?
Yeah, because the Daewoo shotgun certainly has, in essence, you could describe it as a fat, chunky version of an AR style. It's got a handle on the top, but it's a bulky, fat weapon.
Yes.
Certainly a very ugly looking thing. The other interesting thing I noticed when the shooting took place at the toll booth, that when Robert Salzman was shot, one of the witnesses, the Cheoks, had reported that his chest had caved in. So if you shoot someone at point-blank range with a rifle, like a 223 AR-15, the bullet's likely to go straight through and exit through the back.
Yep.
But to cave in a chest, you're looking at a shotgun. And he did describe the weapon as being an Arnold Schwarzenegger type gun, which suggests a big ugly-looking gun like the David shotgun, which was found in the boot of the Volvo. So I would, hazard a guess that he was shot with a shotgun if it made his whole chest cave in.
Well, what were the others also shot with there? Because he hasn't checked around to change firearms.
Yeah,
interesting.
It is. It's just, these are questions that we need answers for, which is why we're here. And it's great to discuss this.
Martin have bought a left-handed one?
You've done more investigation than just about anybody.
Just say.
And I guess I wanted to talk a little bit more about where to go from here, because you've certainly, over the years, collated some very interesting information that a lot of people are not privy to. What's your thoughts on where this is all going, where you're at with it now, at the ripe old age of 78, I believe?
78 next month.
Yeah, so where are you at now, Andrew?
I'm looking at the Port Arthur. I started off with that. Then, like any good policeman, I then started to look for similar cases and all the lone nut gun massacres. Did you know Melbourne is the lone nut gun shotgun we're the leader in the world, Melbourne?
Yeah, we've had Hoddle Street, Queen Street. There's been some other shootings as well.
There's the East Melbourne Abortion Clinic, and then there's Monash University.
Yep. So we were in some ways the predecessors to Port Arthur Massacre, because Hoddle Street.
No, Hoddle Street and Queen Street
took place in the 80s, late 80s.
87. Then we had the one at Strathfield in Sydney, I think, and then New Zealand with David Gray, and then finally at Port Arthur.
So I guess just with your feelings, because I want to just finish off talking about Port Arthur. So you've come through many years of investigation into Port Arthur and been very, very supportive of my efforts and providing information that's certainly a lot of which I haven't seen. So where are you at now? Do you want to pass the baton? Do you want to move on from it, or how?
Well, I'm getting very old and cranky and whatever, and I've got this habit of skipping all over the place, very haphazardly.
But it's been a great journey. I mean, it's certainly been pivotal.
Look, I had some really good help from really good friends. Wendy Skur, excellent leader. Stuart Beater, excellent. He knew all about firearms. Stephen Howard helped as much as he could. John Blasky from Tasmania. Ian McNiven from Queensland. Look, there was a lot of support. And
where do you hope? I'll continue with the WASP files. Where do you hope it's going to go? Do you think we'll ever reach some kind of understanding of the truth? What's your thoughts, honestly, about whether we'll ever be able to, for instance, get a release of all the hard evidence that's been locked down? You
won't get any release of any hard evidence. That they can't afford that. If you consider the Port Arthur Massacre in regard to the JFK shooting, we still don't know the truth about that shooting. I've done a couple of articles on it. I think the second one I did is the first one was rubbish. But what it is all these things are being controlled. The governments have to control it. They haven't. Well, yes, they have controlled me a bit because I'm now in solitude and confinement. You understand? I don't get out to talk to people.
I know that feeling. It's I guess so. Where we're at is we're doing the best we can, and you've certainly done a wonderful job of just at least getting people to question this thing. But everyone seems to be very aware that we're not out of the woods yet. That there can be, in essence, more false flags that are designed for an agenda, whether it's to disarm, whether it's to create power or control over the population. And so we've got to keep vigilant, keep our eyes open.
Very, very. That's all you can hope for. Get the people to understand that our governments are not here to look after us. They're here to look after somebody else. We're only the sheep.
And we've got to just keep asking questions and basically hold our governments to account and not let them get away with just blindly using the media to just snow.
What was the name of that former Liberal minister who started the Democrat Party? Yes. What was his name? To keep the bastards honest.
Keep the bastards honest.
That's what we
somehow we've failed.
No, but we're trying.
We are. Look, I want to thank you, Andrew, for all your support, for coming forward and you're still here, so I'm going to be carrying the baton for quite a while with the WASP files, and hopefully I'll reach some more understandings that can give you some resolution as well.
You're reaching a far better audience than what I ever could, and that, for me, that is excellent. A couple of little things, I might disagree with this, but it's purely, it's nothing really. The main thing is to get the story out and let people know exactly who and what is going on in Australia.
Well, that's what we're here for.
Correct.
Well, I think we're going to wrap it up there, Andrew. I want to thank you again.
And please keep the bastards honest.
So just keep his interview in mind as we go through the next 9 episodes. See if you can actually match up any of the information and go, that's right, he said so and so. And yeah, we'll go through it again at the end and we'll see if your positions changed somewhat. All right.
Because Johnny Howard, just bouncing into politics, wanted to make a milestone for himself.
Mm-hmm.
No royal commission. When there's deaths of overseas people there.
Yep. And multiple deaths. It's mandated that a coronial inquest should have occurred. The medical examiner did begin one. But in his report basically stated that he had to cease the inquest because he wasn't prepared to have his findings clash with the federal government.
That was the coroner's inquest, was it, or a coroner?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, because there wasn't a royal commission even brought up, which there should have been. That John Howard put a lid on it straight away as soon as they mentioned it.
Correct. All right. Now, there's also a book by John Vallis, which is called Deadly Deceptions. I've put the link in the description, and I've also put the link in. There was a woman that did her thesis on the mainstream media narrative in this case, and I've put the link to that in the description box as well, so you can actually have a look and see what she found and how mainstream media presented the information in a certain way.
There's also a DVD available of that Inverell thing that they did with Wendy Sher and him. What's his name again? Andrew McGregor.
Andrew McGregor, yep.
And I think there was 2 other people that were survivors, and it was done in Inverell, which is in New South Wales.
Yeah,
they did it there. And he put out a DVD.
Oh, did he?
From that, yes. It's available to buy online for $9.95. Andrew McGregor.
Oh, did he? This is from America. Hello?
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 Oh, you're on the phone.
Hello? Hello? So, incoming call from America.
Okay. What, and they're not talking to you?
No. Hello? What's the 856 prefix?
What is it?
856 prefix.
No idea. 856, let's go look it up.
I'll give you the number, hang on. Recent. So 0011. It's Paulsburg, New Jersey. Paulsburg, New Jersey.
Okay, call them back.
Call them back?
Yeah.
All right. Where's New Jersey?
In the middle bit somewhere, I don't know. They ask the American people watching us.
Is it? No. Call declined. Call failed. Is it anywhere near Massachusetts or Boston or?
I don't know. And because I'm on my phone, that's what I screwed up before and bumped me off. He's looking up everything.
I'll
use Chrome instead.
Yeah. So this is a letter from Joe Varlas, who wrote a book on Port Arthur, or his investigation into it, basically. And it explains everything that Andrew pretty much noted of what evidence there was or wasn't. I'll give it a quick read. I have to get onto there. Proof of. I can't read the small writing on there. Where is it? Oh, nice that bit there. All right, don't worry. I'll put it in the description box, but you can have a read of it. Okay. Now we need to probably better this. Oh, I can't work out how to save a presentation that's not in a video format, so I'm just going to have to put up with me.
So Massachusetts is above. You got New York, then Connecticut, then Massachusetts going north, and New Jersey. You got New
Virginia?
York, then Philadelphia, and then New Jersey.
Is it to this
South.
towards the sea?
Yeah, it's on the coast.
Oh, so it's below.
Below New York, below Philadelphia.
Okay, so it's still East Coast.
Yeah. Yes.
I wonder who the fuck that is. That's bizarre. Especially while I'm doing an American. Well, not really, actually.
No, doing an Australian one.
Just ignore me. Just ignore me. Oh, yeah. You like this? Oh, shit. Why did that come up there?
What happened?
It's all right. I was trying to show you something else and I pressed the wrong button. Take no notice of me. I'm half asleep still.
The listing of the Port Arthur. Yeah.
I didn't get to sleep till about 3:30. Trying to finish all this in time. All right. Yeah, so I'm just gonna have to click the visuals as I'm reading. I need to work out how to set this chair up properly too. It does tilt back, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay. I just got to work it out. I should have played with it before.
Probably.
All right. So today is we're delving into zero. We're going to attack this chronologically. So from birth to 13, we're covering today.
Of Martin?
Yes.
He was born 2 days before me. 2 days. Exactly the same year, everything.
Are you the 9th of May?
Yes.
Oh, yes, you are too. So he was a Taurus as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, he is. He's still alive.
Yes. Sorry, yes, he is. On a seemingly ordinary day in May 1967 at Queen Alexandra Hospital in Hobart, Tasmania, a baby boy entered the world. After just 2 hours of labour, yeah, well, he was in a rush.
Yeah.
Maurice and Martin Bryant welcomed their son, Martin John Bryant, weighing 6 pounds, a bouncing baby boy, as they say. Maurice was there for the birth and involved father from the very first moment. What none of them could know was that this child would challenge them in ways they could never have imagined. From the very beginning, Martin was different. Even as an infant, he rejected the basic comforts most babies crave. He didn't want to be held. He didn't want to be cuddled. He wouldn't breastfeed. And his mother attributed this to an unquenchable appetite. But looking back, it was perhaps the first sign of something deeper. Carleen would later describe his first year as relatively peaceful. She called him happy and contented, but even in the early memories, something troubled her. Something she couldn't quite put her finger on. While Maurice saw a perfectly normal baby, Carleen sensed warning signs that would only grow louder. By 16 months, Martin was walking. So this is Carleen and Morris on their wedding day. What's next? I think it's okay. So that's Martin. This is
now beehive hairstyle.
Yes. By 16 months, Martin was walking. That's actually late, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. Toby, my first one. Toby, my first, he walked at 17 months, but his sister, who was 3 years younger than him, walked at 8 months.
Yeah, mine were done by 12, I think.
Yeah, well, but Toby was 17. He was a fat little lazy thing.
Often it's the second and third ones that are lazier because the older one does everything for them.
No, well, Jasmine had this little attachment to her dummies or dotties or whatever you want to call them. And she had about 10 of them. And Toby used to just put them out of her reach. And so by 8 months, she was walking because she wanted her dotties back, mate. She crucified the poor child.
No, Tricia. I will definitely catch you tomorrow. So, yes, by 16 months he was walking, and then he was running, and then he was climbing, and then he was gone. The Bryant household became a place of constant vigilance. Martin possessed extraordinary energy. Now, I believe he was undiagnosed ADHD, just myself, my opinion. A relentless drive to explore that made every moment exhausting for his mother, which you can imagine. One day, neighbours found him at the top of the chicken coop. He climbed there by himself and just drawn by the curiosity. Another time, Carleen's heart nearly stopped when she found him across a railway line, playing quietly on a swing. A railway line. He crossed it by himself. So she was desperate and overwhelmed. So she'd made a decision that would absolutely invite judgment from strangers around her because it was purely born out of necessity. So what she did to try and control him was she secured him on their veranda with a harness and a lead. Now, it does make sense, but she put all his toys around him. It was a practical solution for safety, but to people passing by, it looked like they were tying him up like a dog. And you can understand that. So when the complaints came, she defended herself. Like, what else could she do? Her 16-month-old son had been a flight risk and, he'd been running around crossing railway tracks, for goodness sake. So, basically the Bryant family were profoundly isolated in trying to deal with his behaviour. They had no support, no understanding, only judgment from the community. Nobody knew how to control him, basically. So by his third birthday, Carleen's unnamed concerns crystallised into certainty. His speech lagged significantly behind other children his age. His fine motor skills were impaired. He showed no signs of maturing across multiple developmental domains. And he still continued to reject physical affection. During these first 3 years, there was another troubling incident, apparently, where Martin swallowed a nail. Whether it was accidental exploration or something else, it became one more frustration for Carleen's growing list of concerns. So by the time he was 3, the differences between Martin and other children were undeniable. When Martin enrolled at the Newtown Primary School on Foster Street, the private concerns of the Bryant household became public reality. The school made his developmental impairments impossible to ignore. From the moment he walked through those doors, he was assessed on a number of occasions by psychologists and psychiatrists. The verdict was clear. He had both behavioural problems and learning difficulties, even more so that he should have had a guardian. But more than that, school initiated what would become the defining experience of Martin's childhood, a cycle of rejection, isolation, and solitude that would characterise his entire educational experience. So that's got to leave a mark. To his classmates, he was a puzzle wrapped in strangeness. He stood with his face all squinted up as if the sun was too bright, suggesting that sensory sensitivities made the world feel too loud or too bright or too much. He stood out as a loner, but not by choice. He was different and odd but it drove others away. He tried to make friends, but his attempts were catastrophically misinterpreted. So he'd like creep up behind children and jump on them and thinking that was a good way to introduce himself. And what he thought were silly games, others saw as aggression. So they use this information in later down the track to twist it into something different. And apparently when he was caught, he'd cry and squeal as if he was being hurt. And so the kids let him go out of confusion or pity. So, yeah, teachers and peers remembered him as the theatrical high voltage child. My daughter's been called that. Theatrical. And she has ADHD. So he was unpredictable, difficult to read, and exhausting to be around. And they would be.
Yeah, there's a lot of young boys that are like that. Really.
Absolutely. Yep. But they twist that into something, negative and dark. Children can be cruel, and the nicknames they actually gave Mark, there's two of them. They actually gave him two nicknames whilst he was at school. First one is Silly Martin, no sense, no feeling, a taunt that was derived from his blank expression and apparent inability to communicate meaningfully.
They weren't very creative.
No, and the other one was the Shadow.
Yeah, that'd be all right.
Because he would suddenly and silently appear alongside other people.
That's cool. That's a cool name. The other one's
his poor
stupid,
social skills made it unsettling rather than welcome. And it wasn't just schoolyard teasing. There were labels that defined how the children, perhaps Martin himself, understood who he was. So that was one of his weaknesses, and that's what Avery used against him. He never wanted to be known as stupid. It was something, he just couldn't deal with. Never wanted to be called that, and that's what Avery played on. Oh, I can't keep any headphones on my head. They keep sliding off.
Well, because you haven't got your hat on.
Even with a hat, I can feel them just slowly going backwards. Every set of headphones, doesn't matter which.
Turn them around the other way. Maybe you got them on back and front.
Yeah, I've tried. And it's on as tight as it can go. It's not like I can't make it any smaller.
Put a hair clip on them. Put hair clips on them today.
Oh, hang on. I've got one of them. Where did I put it? Yeah. I normally have to put my hats in place because they pull forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I've cleaned up. Mm-hmm. No clips. Oh, yes, there's one there. I'll do it later. Okay. Pictures. Come on. Sure. Okay. This is his sister Libby. Oh, I'm getting an echo. Yeah. All right. I'm hearing things, I think.
What are you hearing?
Oh, you're not coming through my earphones. Okay, hang on. Settings. I've disconnected myself. Changing the headphones. Hang on. Oh, that's better. I need some painkillers. Okay. In the classroom in the schoolyard, Martin developed recognizable patterns. He withdrew socially, whether that's because he was unwilling or unable to relate to the other people. But when he did interact, he often became aggressive, swearing and flailing his arms and throwing punches. If he perceived that someone had slighted him, he would fix them with an angry glare. Oh, I can hear myself. Unable to process or communicate his feelings in more adaptive ways. Academically, he struggled with most everything. Woodwork and art were the only subjects where he showed any competence, suggesting a spatial or hands-on ability that his intellectual limitations didn't impair. And throughout it all, he was frequently bullied day after day. Martin was a target. One of the teachers wondered whether or not he had deep-seated resentment that was building inside this rejected child. We now understand that chronic social rejection and bullying profoundly affect the psychological development. Typically developing children, it leads to poor self-concept, anxiety, depression, and accumulated anger. But for Martin, a child with intellectual disability, poor social cognition, and limited emotional regulation, the damage was even more severe. He lacks the cognitive capacity to understand why he was rejected. He couldn't develop strategies to fix the problem, and every day was a fresh assault on his sense of self, and he had no tools to defend himself or to understand what was happening to him. So can you imagine being accused of this, how that would impact him? That's his life all over again in a nutshell. What are you talking about? I don't understand, and I don't know how to fix it. And he's probably been thinking that for 30 fucking years. So his parents, the dynamics between his parents they both had differing parental opinions, basically. Maurice was the normalizer. So he basically saw his son as spirited, where others observed profound difficulties. But then that's a typical father. They're never there. They're at work. So it's the mother that has to deal with it 24 hours a day. So you can understand that. And what he sees as spiriting, because he's, got energy when he comes home and he brings him from work. If you add that to 12 hours, he might not be as spirited. He saw a child that was perhaps a bit challenging, but fundamentally normal. This wasn't denial born of ignorance. It's just a father's desperate hope that, intensive hands-on parenting could normalise his son's behaviour. So he engaged with Martin through action. He took him spearfishing and diving and, family holidays at the family holiday house at Port Arthur, believe it or not. And these were some of the times that Martin only really felt truly settled and engaged. In the water with his father, he found a kind of peace. And his approach provided Martin with some of his few positive childhood experiences. But it also may have delayed or prevented more intensive interventions that Martin desperately probably needed. But Carleen was drowning. She recognised that something was wrong from the early days, but was so overwhelmed by the daily reality of managing him that she couldn't understand. While Maurice engaged, Carleen developed survival strategies. She managed logistics, basically. She created systems and she sought professional assessments. But what she couldn't provide, what Martin received very little of, was physical affection and emotional nurturing. She described raising Martin as a daily reality, a problem of strategy, which left little time for physical affection or nurture. So for a child who already rejected physical comfort, this created a devastating cycle. Though Martin didn't seek comfort, so Carleen focused on management, which meant he received even less emotional connection, which reinforced his isolation. Oh, look at that. Who's live? Oops, no, I don't want to go there. So, Maurice and Carleen operated from fundamentally different philosophical bases, basically, one in denial and one in constant low-level crisis management. So this disagreement coloured their entire parenting approach and created a household where Martin received inconsistent and ultimately inadequate responses to his needs. They did seek help. He was assessed on a number of occasions by psychologists and psychiatrists, particularly when starting school. But there was never any definitive diagnosis made. There was nothing that I could see. I am happy to elaborate on that further with a possible report from someone who's familiar with psychiatric stuff. They can give me a better analysis, and I'm more than happy to delve deeper into that. But from what I've found, there was nothing really definitive. And even Paul Mullen's report, you know, his interview, he says he's a dim boy.
What?
A dim boy.
Oh, a dim boy, yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's not a diagnosis, mate. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. And he adamantly refuses that there is any schizophrenia or anything there. So, who knows? This disagreement coloured their entire parenting approach and created a household where, hello. Thank you. Can I share the screen? I might have to just nick off for a second to give some instruction. How do I do this?
What are you doing?
I might need you to continue reading for me for a minute. Sonia's just arrived. And I just got to sort. Share screen. Come on.
It's not working.
Just say, there we go.
Oh, anyway.
Hang on. Zoom.
Yeah.
Are you able to? Oh, you're not, are you?
No, I can't control it.
Make it bigger. Make it bigger.
Email me the document and I can do it.
Oh, yeah. Hang on. I need a wee. Fluid tablets. And some painkillers. Shit. Okay, email. $2:15. Oh, she must be early. Yeah. She's early.
Because how long have you got to go?
Not too long.
Yeah, because it's 2 hours now, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you just want to wrap it up there? We've gone through that interview and we've gone through some of his life and why, he was weird.
I have templates.
Yeah, it's okay.
I have templates set for 10. I'm not anal. I'm not.
We can do that. We can finish that quickly tomorrow first.
How many pages is there left? Oh, yeah, we're halfway through.
Yeah, so we can finish that tomorrow.
Yeah, all right. That's true.
Yeah, we'll go through it at the beginning.
Yeah, because that video took up a lot of time. But
yeah, it did.
I think it's a good way to evaluate from the start to the finish of what your opinion is.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That works well for me because my back is screaming.
I thought it might be because you haven't got that chair set up right. Yeah.
No, I haven't. I put all these things on it, all the memory foam things, but didn't actually test it.
Yeah, it leans back and everything. You can lay right down on it.
Yeah. I just got to work with that.
Yeah.
All right. Let me get rid of that. Let's go back to that. Ta-da. Oh,
ta-da.
In vegan. Miss Curly hair.
All
right. Well, that is episode 1, part A. We'll do the end of it tomorrow. Sorry. No, we're doing this weekly, so it will be next week.
Yep.
And we'll continue on to age 21. And that involves, him meeting Helen Harvey and, his life as an adolescent and what have you. So that's okay. And a lot of his psych assessments. But tomorrow at Melbourne time, midday, at USA or Eastern Standard Time, it will be 8 p.m. We have another live stream going, and that is to do with the Sheriff Mickey Steins and Judge Kevin Mullins in Letcher County, in Kentucky, where the sheriff shot the judge in his chambers.
I shot the sheriff. No, wrong one. I shot the judge.
Yes.
Doesn't sound the same.
No, it doesn't. I tried to put that in the song as well. It didn't work.
Yeah, you probably get pinged for copyright anyway.
So we have from that shooting, it's now come out that there is multiple victims of SA, basically, from the judge himself. And
trafficking a bit.
Yes. So we actually have at least 2 of the victims coming forward to tell their story tomorrow, possibly 3 or 4, but I'm still waiting on confirmation of that. But we have Tyre Adams coming to join us and Brandy as well. And, yeah, it's heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking what these women are going through, and I take my hat off to them because they're stronger than me, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And you think you know the case? Nope. The background stuff. Yeah. It's being hidden as it should. Well, as you can understand, they would want it to be. All right. So, same time, same place, same bat station tomorrow, 12 noon in Aussie time. Okay?
Yes. Won't have a late night tonight like I did last.
No, me either. I think I'm going to go to bed from there now. So thank you for joining us, and don't forget to check your like and subscribe, and click that notification bell to all so you don't miss out, because it's going to be huge. All right, hasta la vista. I'll see you when I'm looking at you. Bye-bye.
Catch
In the hollow where the shadows fall, we gather round, we hear the call. Liquid fire from the mountain's hand burns like truth, but it tastes like sand. Oh, it sure feels right at the end of the day. Drink it up, let the story stay. The creek laughs low, the fire cracks loud. We lose ourselves in a moonlit crowd. The air so thick it hums and